Yo, how are you? What's up, Kelly? Can you guys hear me? Let's see. Let me just send this link real quick to Gary. I don't know if he got on the app or not. All right. Eric, are you on mute? Or maybe I'm on mute.
You're not. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hey. How's it been, Kelly, since you've been home?
It's been okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's been going on? Lots of work?
Just, yeah, work and basketball.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How often are you reffing?
3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah, cool. How about you, Eric? What's been going on?
Oh, not much. Reno just left, went to Utah today, took Piper, and then swapped for a couple days. So it's good.
Cool. That's good. Cool. Well, let's see. Let me look at who else said they're coming real quick. We can kind of dive in. So Nathan can't make it. Justin. All right. So kind of what I wanted to start with was just some feedback. Obviously, I just got the app up and kind of going yesterday, but I wanted to see with you guys, like, you know, at the event we talked about, like, what do we want to accomplish if we have the weekly meetings? And kind of what I wanted to talk about, obviously, was implementation of the things that we've been talking about, and really starting to get into kind of like a routine where you're using the guided visualizations, but then we start to create kind of like your own way of life, where you're focusing on staying in these different realms that we talked about, giving attention to, right, higher self, communing with creator, those 12 things that we talked about, right?
Hey, Austin.
And so
Justin just sent a text saying he can't find the link. He can't find it on the app. And
okay. Let's see. Let me go into there real quick. I'm glad you saw that. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm in it on the app, so
I went on the app as well.
just an event, right?
Right. Do you want to, let's see. I'll text them real quick. Oh, there we go. There they are. All right, cool. Thanks, Kelly. All right. What's up, dudes? Morning. How are you, Justin? All right. Jeff, let's see. You're in now too? Okay. What's up, Justin?
Hey,
How are you?
oh, tired. I got to bed after 4.
Oh no, geez. You working on a work project? Is that what's happening?
Yeah.
Dang. Geez. Okay. Jeff, how are you doing? Can you hear us or you gotta be off audio for a minute? Okay. So I want to take a few minutes for each of us to take a time to just kind of like how's it been being back? What are you noticing? Are you getting triggered? Are you getting unfocused? Are you getting too busy? Right. And then I want to talk about how we want to use this meeting. Right. This meeting is for us to be the most valuable as possible. I can talk about some specific things in the realm of training, kind of building on what we talked about at the event. I'd like to talk about a group name just for a brief minute. And then I have some ideas, right, as we're kind of still sorting out what's the most advantageous way to do one week, which it may be, or would you guys prefer I do a training that you can access, you know, at your own time? Definitely think we need to make sure that we're all connecting regularly. And so why don't we start with maybe just things that you're noticing, right? We had a high, really solid weekend, and then you come home and you're fired up, but then you get into regular life and it can be hard to stay. So maybe we'll talk about that. Are you noticing anything, slipping into old patterns, not able to, you know, maintain? Let's kind of talk about that. Anybody want to start?
I can start. Yeah, so I think, yeah, like I said, coming off, been able to maintain it pretty good. Like even if I would notice, like if it would start to drift a little bit, I could catch it with my mind and like just get back on track. So, yeah, it's been good. But as like I said, as far as a name, I don't know what should we call it, bone tats? I don't know.
So I can go next. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
So yeah, I came home. It was just the best experience coming back. Seeing the kids. They were halfway down the street ready for me. And then, you know, got back into my usual routine of, you know, getting back to work. You know, but I didn't get back into my usual routine of being bugged by the kids or, you know, being on a short fuse. And it still hasn't come back, and I don't think it will, because I know what to do to keep it, you know, keep it there or get rid of it completely. And so for me, I mean, I've been riding the high, obviously, since I got back, but also I've kind of enjoyed feeling it taper off a little bit, but knowing that this is kind of my new normal. You know, my focus is completely different than it was before I left, and I feel like it's already shifted to that. Like, this is the new normal. I've had many opportunities with loud noises in the house or kids fighting and arguing, where I could have, you know, shouted instead of talking to them, but I managed to, you know, not shout and just kind of be there and show love instead of anything else. And so it's just been awesome. I've really enjoyed it. Team name, I have no clue. I thought about it, but I just could not. I couldn't think of anything.
I don't know if Jeff's able to speak, so I'll talk for a minute, but things have been good. I do notice some old thought patterns recur because it's been part of what's, what my life has been for so long. But I have been able to kind of push them out. I do find it a little more difficult to do the exercises at home, partly because we've got large dogs that don't sit still. So while I'm trying to sit still and do what I'm doing, they're moving around, and I'm kind of really sensitive to that kind of stuff. So every time, it's the shiny object thing. I hear something and my mind goes right to it. So I've got to kind of figure out how to tune that out and just focus on the exercise. But things overall are good. I have been a lot more able to just push thoughts away or things that were old patterns. They still come up, but I'm able to deal with them better. I'm like everybody else. Team names aren't really, that's not my strong suit. I've thought about it, but I no clue.
Well, yeah, I
We
mean,
could be the senders.
the senders. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Isn't that like rising? Ascending.
Like what? Oh,
Uh,
sending.
Well-
Oh, us senders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
I
Jeff,
thought you
you
said
can jump-
senders, like send it.
Yeah, I thought so too. Jeff, you can jump in when you can. Yeah, Kelly, I think that's cool. Like that awareness of, hey, here's some old patterns, and I can step back about it. Same with what you talked about, Justin, right? Like, I think I shared that story. Maybe I didn't this time, of when I was working on stuff with my daughter where I used to trigger all the time, and then I did that exercise, and I came back, and she was doing the same thing that normally would have triggered me. And instead of going into it and managing it, it just wasn't there, right? Like for all of us, as we recognize times where we get triggered or emotions come up, like that idea of we're not at awesome, go, I got to do some work there. So this same thing in the future doesn't mess me up. It doesn't do anything, right? So
Austin, Gary's trying to get in too. He just texted.
what did he say?
I don't know if he can't find it. I just sent him a thing to ask him if he found the button on the app, but
Okay.
he said he couldn't find the thing. I don't know if you want to send him the link or whatever you sent to Justin.
So I actually eventually just found it on the app. I was just, my mind wasn't working too well this morning. I was this close to sending a message saying, sorry guys, I'm not going to be able to join. And that's old me. And I recognize it right away. Like I could go back to sleep right now, keep snoozing, or I could get up and do what I committed to doing, which was being on this call with you guys. And so I jumped on, threw on a hoodie and some pants. Don't worry, I'm not pantsless. And it was kind of interesting to feel in that moment, like I could easily send a text and get out of this, and I'd let people down. Maybe not let them down, but I would not follow through with the commitment that I'd committed to. And that's, I felt like that would have been far too easy. It was a lot harder to say, nope, get out of bed. Just get out
That's
of bed and go do it. So.
Nice. So we had two challenging nights, not last night, but the two before that, where I was aware also of situations where I could have escalated. Like I could have said things that would have been old, that would have been problematic. I recognize actually it took me quite a bit, but I was triggered by something in a couple of conversations, and I wasn't angry or upset, but I think my tone of voice changed, which then Shaylee started to change. There's Gary. And but I was able to stay with it, and then we were able to repair really quickly, right? And one of the things I've struggled with in the past is after we've had like even the smallest struggle, I start to feel insecure of like, oh, I blew it, and now we're gonna be disconnected forever. And I didn't have that insecurity. I just said, hey, sorry, we got off track. Like I didn't feel like I offended or did anything wrong. We just were missing each other, right? And I was just able to accept like that's okay and reconnect and stay close, which is good. So I wanted to ask Kelly, you had sent me a text about we're excited, me and Lisa are excited to build our empire. I wanted to kind of hear a little bit more about that conversation and how that went, if you're willing.
So yeah, so I got home late Saturday, and honestly, I was tired, and she wanted to talk about it, and I said, "Can we just do it tomorrow so that A, I can sleep, but B, we can kind of just uninterrupted focus on it, both of us." And she said, "Yeah." So went to church, got home, had some food, and then we sat down for about 2 hours, and I took out my journal from the things just so I could kind of go through what we did, and I went through every page of my journal just so that I talked to her about kind of what we did and how I felt about it. I read her several things where I wrote about her or wrote about us. I read her stuff just so I said, I want you to hear what my thoughts were. And, she asked questions and we talked through things, and it was really cool to just share it with her and say, this is what I spent the time doing and kind of where I feel like I'm headed and where I hope that you and I are headed together. Said some of this stuff, it's, if we're building this together, it's not about what I see, it's about what we see. So, you need to know some of this stuff so that we can start talking through. And, we talked about some of the things that, the 6 areas about how does our life going to look, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, etc. And she said, well, let's put it down. And I said, well, how about let's work on it for a week? You think about it for a week, I'll think about it for a week. And then so this coming up Sunday, we're going to sit down and start formulating our plan together. But I told her, I said, I don't want to jump into anything. I said, I'd rather be deliberate about it and think about, what do I really want? What do you really want? How do we put that together? So it was really good.
That's awesome. That's cool. That's good that you're coming back to it, right? Being intentional with it. That's cool. Gary, can you hear me? Are you able to come in and chat for a bit? Are you helping kids or?
I'm here. I'm good.
Cool. Awesome. So we were each kind of taking a minute to talk about how it's been since we've been home, things that we're noticing, times where we might be feeling off, and if we're able to bring it back. So you want to just take a minute, kind of tell us how it's been since you've been home?
Most of it's been actually pretty decent. My wife's super excited about the things that we talked about. I did very similar to Kelly. I actually drove home that night, and so I was pretty exhausted in the morning. But after church, we got down, and I had during church, I kind of brainstormed a few things of just how am I going to have this discussion? What are we going to do? Because I write a ton, so I didn't want to. If we were gone a page at a time, it would have taken us forever. So I wrote down, I separated into 3 segments, things that I need to do, things that I want to do with my wife, and things I want to do with my kids. And I showed her the list. I talked to her about the list, and I said, look, over the next few weeks, I'm happy to go through the details of this, but this is just kind of my overview, like a table of contents is what I'd like to be focused on. And we initiated one of the things that I wanted to do. So we have a word of the week. In our family home evening, we're going to do a word of the week, which is what can we focus on to improve daily, and what can we kind of carry on with us throughout the week. We had the kids brainstorm, and we had like a 5 to 10 minute meditation moment, if you will, like we did with you. And we said, what are the things that you would like to get better at? Or what do you think we as a family get better at? So the word that they came up this week was responsible. So this week that we have a poster, I should take a picture when I get home, but I choose to be responsible with my heart, my mind and soul. And that's kind of that's what they chose. And we're excited to be focused on that. But one thing that I have also noticed is now that my heart is open, I've noticed that I'm no longer hiding, and there's pros and cons to that. I yelled at my wife for the first time in probably years, just out of frustration. And so I had to go back and try to find out why I was so frustrated and why I yelled at her, because it's just the most random thing for me. But that was hard. And so yeah, she shut off and trying to figure out why I did that. She's willing to talk to me, but it's just super, I still don't fully understand, but I did a lot of brainstorming last night because it was yesterday. And yeah, we'll figure it out.
Back or times where we feel off emotionally, like typically what it's going to come back to is there's some sort of inner voice, inner belief or thought. And I know for a lot of times a word that I've started to be aware of maybe a year ago that I never associated with, but I notice it's pretty accurate for me, is when there's situations with my wife or kids that typically don't go well, or I've tried hard and they don't change, the feeling that I start to get is this sense of like helplessness, like I can't do anything, nothing I do is going to fix this. And it's like this discouragement where then the anger comes out. And I'm not saying that's yours, Gary, but I think trying to trace that back, and I'm going to have an exercise coming up here in the next few days that can help with that. So did you guys all listen to that first guided process, the one on the beach? I want to talk about that for just a quick minute, or an aspect of that. So I think in that one I talked about, and I think we talked about it at the event too, was this idea of who do I need to become over the next 3 months so I'm able to do the things that I plan to do, right? And so it's kind of this consistent, I got to become something more. I got to move into the next version of myself if I'm going to accomplish these tasks. Got to be more focused, more committed, more, dialed in, whatever the case is, right? And so what I'd like us to start to do obviously this week, but over the next 12 weeks, is really dial in on kind of your new way of life, right? And so for me, like right this week, we're working on higher self, but I've been thinking about this weaponized physique thing. I started eating differently the last few days, and I've been focusing on that way of life. Like this is how it's going to be pretty long term for me, because my goal is I want to lose 55 pounds. And so it's got to be a way of life mentality. And for me, it's kind of like this idea of who do I need to become over the next 3 months to do what I want to do? Well, I need to be lighter and stronger to do some of the things I want to do with my kids, where I've been out of shape. And so we started obviously with the higher self, because that can inform everything else. And we spent a lot of time with that, especially on Saturday, the vision of the future. And so I'd like to just kind of dial into specific goals you're starting to notice. You may not have them all worked out yet, but let's talk about like this idea of living life 3 months at a time. And what I'm hopeful to do is between now and the end of March, we get in a place where in March, we kind of start the new quarter together, and we all have new goals in the different areas of life: marriage, family, business, body, like these different things. And so if you guys are open to it, maybe start to take turns with, what am I really going to dial in on and put my energy into in this realm of like, who am I going to become over the next 3 months to take the next step.
I can't say that I've set any goals. I think for like long term, I think right now what I've been focusing on is this week, my wife and I, our goal was to write down a morning routine that we would try to commit to. And then our goal is to revisit our morning routines every week for the next month and be okay with changing them every week. Just trying to really hone in on what our goals are. So we have 3 segments. We have a morning routine, and then we have our responsibilities as far as around the house. And then the third one is a nightly routine. And we've had a decent nightly routine, just not anything that's personalized. It's all family based. And so our goal is, can we get a morning routine and a nightly routine that's consistent enough, and being comfortable with revisiting that every single week to just refine it. So that's what our goal has been. Oh, I should say this, that the goal also has to include physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual throughout the day at one point or another.
I like it, Gary. I think so. I don't like silence. I gotta speak. For us, we've set some goals in the past. You know, we've had like this idea of, oh yeah, let's do this, right? We set the goal, and then it fizzes out pretty quick. Like right now, we have a goal as a ward that we were extended to read the Book of Mormon by a certain date. I think it's by General Conference. And you know, everyone was given a guide, you know, how many chapters to read a day, that kind of thing. And my wife and I actually took that, and it's something that we fizzed out a little bit to begin with, but got back on track and decided to, you know, no matter what, that's one of the biggest goals we have for now, to just to have something that we're committed to and that we do. And then we found that by having that goal, we've kind of started thinking of other goals, other long-term goals to have, you know. For me and her, I think we often feel like we're just stuck in this cycle of get up, go to work, come home, go to bed, get up, you know, that kind of thing, which I think, you know, 90% of people are fine with. But for us, we're always kind of wanting a little bit more, something a bit more challenging. And so we've spent, you know, we've decided another goal was, instead of binge watching 3-4 shows a night, and we watch one show, one episode, and then we spend the next, you know, couple of hours talking, and talking about meaningful stuff, like talking about, you know, what kind of things can we do to improve our lives. You know, one of the things is my wife's wanted me to start a podcast for a while, so we've been brainstorming names of podcasts. Some of them are pretty funny, but you know, she wants me to do that so that I can then have other goals of reading books to share on the podcast, to, you know, to have content to share, to talk about. But the whole podcast is geared towards helping dads. You know, it's not going to be a political thing. It's not going to be where I talk about, you know, the vaccine or the, you know, the current political state of the country. It'll have nothing to do with that. It'll be, you know, how can I help? How can I share my experiences and help those, and then in turn, you know, push people towards this way of life, towards this program, this movement. And so, it's just been really fun. We haven't been home that long, but it seems like we've been home for a while, because it seems like, we're in this flow of things that just feels like it's always been. It just feels natural. And so, I'm kind of excited to see what are the goals we can think of, or what are the topics we talk about when we have this otherwise dead time, when we normally would have just numbed our brains with TV shows. It's been really, really cool.
That's awesome, Justin. It's cool. Yeah, we talked about that, right? Like most of the world is just sedating themselves, escaping, and not even, it doesn't have to be bad stuff to just be distracted, right? And so going back to that concept of like, I got something to build. Kelly, I love when you texted and said we're building our empire, right? I got something to build. I can't take 3-4 hours a day just to be idle. And it's easy to get into that routine. That's why if we have the focus of the vision and we start to lay out the goals, right? Those are those steps to get there. And when we're motivated by it, when it's compelling, and we're excited to get up and get at it. So awesome, dude. Who else?
I think for me, it's yeah, I haven't really thought about goals. I have the vision, and that is my goal. And like I said, I understand the roadblocks that'll come in the way, and I understand what I have to accomplish to reach that. So, but I like the idea of 3 months, where I want to be in 3 months from now, even physically, spiritually, and mentally. I'll probably sit down with my wife and get goals out for that, probably on Sunday. So
Cool. Yeah, the idea that I like about this is,
idea.
right, we talked
I
about,
like-
go ahead.
Podcast, I could listen to that voice all day.
That's awesome. Okay, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I think the idea, right? We don't want to get lost in a bunch of check marks, like we've all done that before, but we do want to do some things, right? But we want it to be informed by our being, right? And so setting those goals where it's like, hey, these things have been important to me, and I didn't do them because I wasn't being the guy that did these types of things, right? And so for me, right, like I want to be healthy and mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, sexually. I got to be the guy that does the things that helps myself get healthy. And a lot of that starts in the mind connecting to the spirit, which we did so much work about. And so having that vision of what do I want out in the distance, what am I going to have to do to get there, and who am I going to have to be to carry that out, right? And that goes back to like, I'm being a king. Kings build kingdoms. Kings do things that bring results, right? And so it has to be that being thing. And as we continue, I'm going to do some more things around expanding that vision and clarifying the steps, right? We started that on Saturday with what are the things I went through to get where I want to go. But now we got to really dial it in. So it's not just, words, right? Kelly, any thoughts from you on this?
Yeah, sorry, I got a phone call in the middle.
Oh, you're good.
From one of the subs, but my thing is we haven't gone too far down that road yet, because as she and I talked, we decided that we were going to spend this week kind of getting our thoughts organized and setting those goals. But I'm kind of I work off plans every day, and so to me having a plan is important. I'm not a good shoot from the hip guy, because I end up kind of going all over the place and doing nothing. So I think that's really what we're focusing on, is just trying to hit those 6 areas, develop a plan, and then work the plan. But I think one of the things that she and I haven't talked about that we need to talk about is that we need to revisit the plan on a regular basis. You know, how are we doing? Is the plan still the right plan? You know, we might think that we want to go a certain way emotionally, and that's not working for us. So, you know, it needs to be a flexible enough thing to adjust as we go.
Yeah, I think like revisiting it probably weekly is good. Me and Shaylee have done that where one of us proposes something and the other agrees, and then we don't like dial in how to accomplish it, and then we stay the same. And so revisiting it, staying with it. And I think, Kelly, kind of what is good about you taking this week to think through things, right? In a way, I remember I had like the blank whiteboard that I had talked about. Like we took everything back and said, what's important? What are we going to add? What matters? And when you come together with your spouse, right, being able to say, look, we haven't been where we want to be in these different ways. Let's step back and take some time to look at it, and then we're going to add what matters, right? Justin, did that. Like, hey, it's not as valuable as we thought to spend, you know, this time watching shows. Let's do something else that's more fulfilling, more, you know, productive, and more connecting. So that's awesome. Okay, so Gary, I loved your comment where you said everything's so much easier when I'm the king, right? When I'm connected to myself. And so I think one of the things I've been working on, and I recognize I haven't been consistent with this, the app is supposed to allow me to just upload videos directly to the app, but something's stuck on it. And so I'm having to upload them to YouTube, and it's taking like 2 hours to load, which I was not planning on. So I'll figure that out. But I think taking that time in the morning to connect to yourself, right? To get in tune with the king, the higher self. And so I'll work on having those consistent. If you guys would like, I was going to guide one this morning before we ended as well. Have those been helpful to help you stay with that idea of like, I'm hunting down the higher self, I'm getting in tune with my intention in the morning and then carrying it throughout the day? Or have you guys been doing it more in the afternoon or evening? Like, what are you finding that's best for you, that's working?
Being an early riser, I get up and I do it first thing just because nobody else is up and it's easier for me because my house is quiet and still, but that just works for me because I get up early.
Right.
Yeah, I've been doing them whenever I can. Like I said, I'll start doing them in the morning just because that will kind of set the tone for the day too. So.
Okay. So, I wanted to ask you guys, so we've been working on the higher self, and I'll carry that through the week. And then probably what I'll do is a short video that'll be there on Sunday that gets us starting to think about the next one. Initially, I was gonna do either the king mentality or commune with creator. Do you guys have a preference on that? Or would one of the other ones be more valuable collectively?
For me, I'd enjoy commune with creator right now.
Okay.
Yeah, me as well.
I don't know that I have a preference, so that's fine.
Okay. So I'll just kind of give you kind of an idea of what comes with that. So with the commune with creator one, I'm going to allow more space where it's silent for trying to listen, right? Trying to like clear out the noise. And one of the things you'll notice is you will have chatter in the mind. You will have those distractions, and this is a place to start practicing. I'm in charge of my attention, and right, I'm guilty of this. I think most of the world is. we don't own our attention. Whatever's out there externally or internally holds our attention. And so for me, this concept of communing with Creator is I'm gaining my attention and I'm giving God my focus, and I'm learning to listen. And so throughout next week, as we begin that, I'll extend time where it's more and more silent, but I'll do kind of like prompts to bring it back. So you don't feel like, geez, I just wasted like this time because my mind went off. So I'll help bring it back. But really look at this as like I'm training myself to be in charge of where my focus goes so I can hear those messages. I had periods of time where I felt like God was not there for like years, like long periods of time. I couldn't hear it. And as I've learned to like intentionally seek that communion where it's not just me praying, but it's like, hey, Heavenly Father, I need some guidance. I need you to speak to my heart and my mind. I think as I've shown up more, I've been able to more tap into God and trust that it's not just my mind, it's not the adversary, it's him. So I'll head in that direction. I'll do a short, I think we'll do a short video just to talk about that concept a little bit more. And then what I'd love is after those meditations, if you'll take a minute to just write kind of what came from that space, and then obviously putting stuff in your journal. So I'm excited for that one. I think there's a lot of value there. So Jeff, are you able to chime in yet? Or are you still with kids? Okay, that's okay. Any other things before I start to guide a process that's coming up for you guys, things you want to discuss as a group? No? Everybody's good? Okay, cool. Let me take this cough drop out of my mouth. If you want, you can just sit back. I'm gonna record this a different way too, just so we can upload it. Sit back and close your eyes. And quickly notice that you're in charge. You're the king. You're leading yourself. And you're leading in the strengthening of your marriage, your family, your career, your contribution. And allow yourself to notice how quickly you can take charge of what comes next. And in a minute, I'm going to have you open your eyes and look directly in front of you and focus your eyes on one specific spot. And as you do that, I want you to play with the idea of you can expand your awareness and you can narrow it. So go ahead and open your eyes and fixate on one spot, maybe the size of a quarter. Dialing in the focus while being aware that there's more around it that you can see, but you're dialed in on that very important thing in front of you. Now expand your awareness all the way out to the size of like a sheet, like a bed sheet. Now continue to expand, just allowing it to go out further and further, expanding that vision. And then expanding your awareness past your vision, bringing in your other senses, starting with your hearing. Is there a clock, a fan blowing, something outside like a lawnmower? Now expanding your awareness to your sense of smell. Is there anything in this place that you're smelling? Expanding your awareness to your body, the way it feels, temperature of the room, feet on the floor, butt in the chair. Even expanding your awareness to your imagination, noticing that you can see what's all around you, even though you're not looking at it. You've been in this room before, even without looking, you know what's around you, even if you can't see it. And then bring your attention all the way back to the quarter. Noticing your ability to be aware of all that's around you, and then cut it out so you can focus on what's right in front of you. Take a minute to close your eyes again. Energy flows where attention goes. Energy flows where attention goes. Where will you put your attention today? Giving attention to your marriage, your children, to your vision for the future, to your relationship with yourself and God, to your career. How much attention and focus will you give to your career today? Noticing that you can bring your attention back to your marriage and family as soon as your work is over. Noticing how often perhaps you continue to give energy to your work or your stress or your to-do list or your hobbies instead of bringing it back to the things that matter most. I'd like you to float out into later today when you return to your family. Noticing that you've spent much energy and attention in your career, which is normal. And you'll have experienced emotions and thoughts and interactions, perhaps frustrations. And out in the future, later today, when it's time to be back with your family, I'd like you to see yourself bringing your attention back and your focus to being fully present. Bringing your whole self, your higher self, your emotional state of joy, love, excitement, awesomeness. Bringing your thoughts, bringing your body, your energy. And notice if you're focused and intentional with bringing your energy How can this evening be? Energy flows where attention goes. Now come back to now along the timeline with the confidence that you can create the interactions that are meaningful to you and those you love. And it's as easy as narrowing in your vision or expanding it. So once again, I want you to go out into the future, and I want you to notice a scenario where you're interacting on something that's important, but something else that is also important is happening at the same time. Perhaps you're interacting with your wife and a child also has a need. Then how do you stay present where you're with your wife, with being aware of the other need and making a decision? Energy. You ask the child to hang on, you ask your wife to hang on, you get overwhelmed or frustrated. How do you split your attention where both scenarios equally feel valued and important? Noticing that your awareness is different than your focus. You may be focusing on one conversation while also being aware of another need. Or perhaps you're working on a project or doing a hobby and you're focused on it, and someone comes in and wants to talk to you, and you become aware that this is a person of value, and that you can shift your focus and attention towards them, even just momentarily, to help them feel seen, even though you have something else important to take care of. Once again, bringing your attention back. And coming back to now along the timeline. And as you look to the future, noticing that one of the skills of a king is awareness of all that is happening in his kingdom. The skill of a king is awareness of what is happening in his kingdom, where to put his attention and focus to be of most value. And then I'd like you to begin to see in front of you the next week. Being aware of all the different places your energy has to go, all the ways you spend your time. And how will you keep an awareness of what's happening and what's important in your kingdom, and intentionally choose to place your focus in the most advantageous places. And come back to now along the timeline. Bring yourself back into the room you're in. And with your eyes still closed, I want you to see out in front of you a fire. That fire represents your light. And in that fire is your energy. And see in your fire in front of you where you will place your energy today. Put your hand to your heart. And while staying silent, just give it a 2 thump. And come back into the room. Let's just take a quick minute. Any thoughts, feelings that came from that before we end? What was that like, being in control of your awareness and your focus?
It was actually really hard for me to begin with, because my mind kept wanting to go to sleep. So I could think about it. But it was cool because I was able to ignore that, tell it, no, this is important. This is something I need to hear and need to go through. And so it was cool to be aware of that, you know, aware that my conscious self, or maybe unconscious self, I don't know, was screaming, just let it go, just fall asleep. But instead I was able to stay with it.
Who notices they need to develop that skill further to be in charge of their attention? Okay. So would it be helpful if I do even a shorter version of that? Like maybe I'll do even like a 3-minute version so you guys can, and myself included, can practice it. That'd be valuable. Okay, cool. Awesome, guys. Well, anything else before we end for today? If not, I will I'll have a process tomorrow and the next day, and then a video on Sunday, and we'll start into Commune with Creator. Okay.
I've got one. It's just a side note. Did we do the timeline process while we were down there?
I think we not the one that I did with you and Airly. We will do that one though.
I don't like. I'm having a difficult time with the timeline, traveling up and down
Okay.
the timeline.
Okay. I'll create something with that too.
Okay.
Okay. That ability to go out into the future or back into the past. There's some things I can help where you can begin to do that pretty quickly. Okay. So I'll create something for that as well. And that's something we'll do pretty regularly, is I'll have you bring in your timeline, almost envisioning it in front of you, and then floating up and going, I'm going to go into the future. I'm going to go back into the past. Okay. And the more we do that, it'll become easier and easier to like envision, like, okay, I'm floating up. And instead of thinking, I'm actually going to a place. So yeah, I'll do something to help really kind of practice that for tomorrow morning in the beginning, just to set that up correctly.
I think I'm doing something like that. I just don't know if I'm doing it the way that it's supposed to be done. So it's been a few years since you and I did it, I think. Okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right, guys, kill it today. Have a good day. And
Thanks. We'll see you.
we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's fine.
Bye, guys.